It might get loud. It might light a fire within you. It's all hands on deck. Now, for your listening pleasure, 94.9 News Now presents Mean Chet Martin, the Long Island redneck Brian Bro, and fearless C.V. Burton. This is Freedom on Deck.
And yes, this is Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and stimulating talk. Thank you for being with us on your Sundays. I'm Mean Chet Martin, joined as always by the fabulous and fearless C.V. Burton. C.V.
Hey, guys.
And so we're here again. Everything's being streamed on the podcast on Friday nights and then being streamed also on the Sunday show, terrestrial 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. The podcast is FOD Overdrive, and the show is Freedom on Deck. So we've got a lot to talk about. We have three fantastic guests coming up. Julio Rivera, Newsmax insider from the Reactionary Times. He's coming on with us, first guest. And then we have Josh and Nicole Landers coming on as the second interview. And we've got a really disturbing topic to talk about with them, so you're not going to want to go anywhere for that. And everything is just, this week has been crazy. There are just so many demented things going on. But before we get into the first topic, I wanted to acknowledge a post from Mr. Wayne Allen Root CV that was put up on Facebook Wednesday. One of his great listeners, a combat veteran, sent Wayne a picture he took at Jones Beach. It's a massive flagpole at the location where the American flag had been removed and the New York State flag was put in its place, and underneath it was the gay pride flag. That's unacceptable. It's treasonous. It's a vile, un-American action. And no doubt the demonic Governor Cuomo gave the okay on this one. CV, this is a slap in the face.
All right, I'm going to give a shout out to Andrew Cuomo.
Okay.
Hey, Andrew, a Sunday May, to see Provinos Fashima. And he is.
But it's so, I couldn't believe looking at this picture. It was beyond reproach. I can't understand how anyone would agree to taking down of the American flag. And right here on Long Island, CV.
The left are so butthurt that Donald Trump won that they take any opportunity to poke the eye of the believer, achiever, and patriot in this country. They just can't stand it. They know they lost a lot of power in 2016 due to the election of Donald Trump, that they're trying to be spiteful, and at any given opportunity, they will put a thumb in the eye of the patriot, and it's really sad.
I think you're exactly right. That's exactly what it is, and that's what I thought about immediately when I saw Wayne post that. Mm-hmm. Now, we have to deal with the topic at hand, which is the green light bill, which, again, the demonic governor and gargoyle, Andrew Schwasim Cuomo, if I said that right.
He does look like a gargoyle. He looks like a gargoyle.
And he signed the bill in the middle of the night on Monday to grant all illegal aliens in New York the right to a driver's license, CV. Now, the question is, we're going to grant basic amnesty for driver's licenses. How do we know who they are? How do we know that their social security number lines up? How do we give them driver's licenses when we can't even be sure that they're not giving us their third social security number, when we don't know who they are and what kind of DWIs they've compiled over the years being here in New York? This is a total stab in the back of the American patriot living here in New York.
Well, I may be wrong. I'm not an expert on Social Security numbers, but I'm pretty sure that they don't have Social Security numbers, not issued by the United States. And
they have fake ones.
Well, they could have fake ones, but if they're supposed to be illegal aliens, they're not supposed to have any. So if they show up with a Social Security number, then they can't be illegal aliens. So how are they getting an illegal alien driver's license? That's number one. Number two is, I mean, even the cesspool countries where they come from, I don't even think they issue Social Security numbers. So they can't have one issued from there, I don't think. I may be wrong. Please write us if I'm wrong. But another thing is, I'm pretty sure that this is linked to illegal voting, because once you have a driver's license, I believe you can register to vote. And once you register to vote, then I don't know why they I guess they're using New York as the jumping off point for other states around the country, because New York usually goes for the Democrat candidate anyway.
No, this is actually the 13th state to do this.
Yeah,
there's 13 states before that have done this, and you're exactly right. This is for the sole purpose of garnering more votes. I mean, you're right. It's going to go Democrat anyway, but this is just a way to kind of circumvent the ability to line up. Well, look at this. What about Congressman Lee Zeldin? Mm-hmm. What about elected Republicans in New York? That Steve King. What about elected Republicans that we put in?
Yeah.
That now you will never get that opportunity again. You'll never see a Republican mayor. You'll never see a Republican governor again, which we have had in New York. Now they've all but killed that ability for us to have any difference of the party.
Oh, yeah, that's a fantastic point. Actually, you're dead on there. I mean, if people like Lee Zeldin can't get in, we have no conservative representation from New York at all in the Senate or in the House.
Correct.
And also they're trying to create a consensus. New York jumps on the bandwagon. They hope every state jumps on the bandwagon. They're really trying to steal the election, and it's got to be stopped. We have to figure out a way to stop them. This cannot go through. This cannot stand.
State Senator Daphne Jordan made a good point. She said, how would a county clerk know if a foreign document is real? And I'm trying to say, Senator Luis Sepulveda responded, they're already being trained, already receiving funding. So this is nothing new to the DMV or county clerks. So what's the point? They're being trained to look at illegal documents? Look, you can't know who these people are. These people, they create fake aliases all the time. We know that.
Yep.
It's been proven. So how the hell do you know if somebody comes in front of you and says, I need a driver's license at the DMV, and you say, do you have any proof of who you are? Oh, yeah, me have Social Security, me this, me that, me have piece of paper, me have mail. That's what they're going to do, and they're going to say, what's your name? Oh, me name is Juan Carlos Ruiz. Okay, Juan Carlos Ruiz, here's your license. Meanwhile, he's some MS-13 gang member that's here on a broken visa that is working throughout Long Island and, is wanted for domestic violence and DWIs and all this kind of crap, and you can't track who they are. Mm-hmm. The Democrats' argument now is that all of a sudden this is going to make New York safer because at least we'll have a blueprint on who they are. Well, that's absolute bull, and they know it because what's going to, see, I'm getting really angry, CV. It's okay. So mind-numbing that they did this in the middle of the night. I am so ticked off right now.
If you weren't this angry, I'd be worried. But I just pray to God right now, live on this show, that God upholds Donald Trump, who's representing the real people of this country, to close these loopholes and these tricky, illegal tactics of the left, because they cannot win in a fair fight. They have to cheat, straight down the line. And even with all Hillary's cheating, Donald Trump still won. So that ought to tell you that God is on our side.
He always has been.
Yes.
And I'm happy to talk about the president's speech during the next topic. We're going to go over that a little bit when we come back. And then we're also going to be talking about Netanyahu unveiled Trump Heights. That's going to be a big one, man. I'm stoked about this. And we love our president. Come on back to Freedom on Deck. Oh, yeah. Grilling and chilling, man. Love this song. Love this song. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck. And also FOD Overdrive for all of you that are listening on the podcast version of the show. This is the last week we're doing this where it's combined. Just so you know, next week will be normal. We'll have the two shows separately on Friday and Sunday. You know, speaking of grilling and chilling, I was grilling and chilling when Donald Trump was raising $25 million in 24 hours. That's a record set by Trump, by the way, CV. And watching Trump announce his 2020 campaign, you know, I remember a few Never Trumpers claiming that he would not seek re-election. Wrong again, John LeBoutelier. You know, CV, it was a great night. The people were amped up. There were thousands of people lined up out the door. They couldn't get in. And, you know, for the mainstream media to keep providing these false polls saying that he's going to lose it's ridiculous, don't you think?
It's exactly 2016 all over again. It's like deja vu all over again, as they say.
Absolutely.
And they think we're so stupid that they think we have such a bad memory that we don't remember 2.5 years ago when the polls were totally wrong, way the hell off. You know?
Well, it just it goes to show you that sometimes you just got to prove them wrong. And that's what we're going to do at the ballot box this year. I'll tell you, man, I feel better and better about Trump every day because he wins on the border. He wins with the GDP. Sorry, Michael Savage. He wins with the economy. He wins with black employment. He wins with Hispanic employment being up. Unemployment is down. Mm-hmm. And, you know, this is just a winning president. I don't know how else to say it. Well, it's like Charlie Sheen, he's winning. You
said it great in your article, and it was well put, well written, and it kind of flies in the face of a one Michael Savage that we all know and love. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why he's kind of bitter, and he's kind of spinning things in a negative way where it comes to Trump, but I don't want to make this about him.
No.
I just want to make a point about the raising money fast. Donald Trump's base is able to raise a lot of money quickly for him because guess what? They work! And they're working more and more, and they're getting raises.
That's right.
Because the salaries are actually going up. They can't even find enough people to fill the jobs anymore.
It's a beautiful thing. It really is.
And on the Democrat side, they're not working, so they can't raise money that quickly.
And if you want to go look at my latest article, you just go to FreedomOnDeck.com. Don't forget to do that. You can look at articles by me, Lee Elsey, Julio Rivera, and, of course, Alex Newman. Now, I wanted to talk about this with you, CV, because you're an unapologetic Zionist, right?
Yes.
And let's get into this, okay? So Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, a great man, unveiled a plaque formally renaming a 3-decade-old settlement in the contested Golan Heights as Trump Heights on Sunday.
Yep.
He said, we are going to do two things: establish a new community on the Golan Heights, something that has not been done for many, many years. This is an act of Zionism and is paramount. So the second thing is to honor our friend and very great friend of the state of Israel, President Donald J. Trump, who recently recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. The settlement is currently known as Bruchim, and it was established more than 30 years ago. Just 10 people call it home. That's wild. Israeli officials hope that renaming the town Ramat Trump, Hebrew for Trump Heights, will bring a new wave of residents to expand the tiny town. Netanyahu unveiled the new sign alongside America's Israeli ambassador, David Friedman. This is a really high honor, CV, one that has never been bestowed on an American president ever. And for the leftists to continue to try to paint this president as anti-Semitic is embarrassing, especially with the statements that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez made this week about the southern border holding facilities being concentration camps.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Nobody's more anti-Semitic than Barack Obama, who's also anti-Christian, who met with Netanyahu at one point during his administration and said, we want to put the border lines back to pre-1967 lines, and Netanyahu had to school him on the fact that, Syria, Egypt, and I think Jordan, like, all tried to attack Israel, and Israel hit back, won the war. What was it, the 7-Day War? I forget what it was. 6-Day War, sorry. Yikes. Yes. 6-Day War. And to the victor belongs the spoils. Sorry, losers. You lost. That's what happens. Don't mess with Israel.
All right. So, the thing is, Barack Obama was clearly anti-Semitic. He does not like Israel. He does not like the Jewish state. He does not like the Jewish faith, and he doesn't like the Christian faith. And what he tried to do was basically denounce the state of Israel and prop up Palestine and prop up the surrounding Islamic countries. And if he could have, he would have put Israel into rubble. Believe me.
Oh, yeah. That's why he gave them $150 billion, so that they can reduce Israel to rubble. That's what that was all about, in my opinion.
Oh, what he gave to Palestine when he was leaving?
No, what he gave to Iran.
What he gave to Iran, too. But don't forget, days before he left office, he gave a boatload of cash to Palestine. Not that it really exists, but he gave a boatload of cash to the non-existing Palestinian government, which actually is a government, which is screwed up. But anyway, the guy funds terrorist states, the biggest financiers of terrorism, and Barry Hussein Obama funded them. You tell me he's not an enemy within.
Yeah.
Come on.
May we never get another fake president like Barack Obama again. He did so much harm. But we have like a Superman who followed Barack Obama, who's putting it all right again. And that is a Herculean task that I cannot even believe is happening. I mean, this has to be divine providence. This is manifest destiny that we're watching.
Well, many have called this biblical in what President Trump is doing. And, a lot of people talk about his language, his brashness, the tweeting, the braggadocio. But let me tell you folks something. Read the Bible sometime. Look at some of the characters throughout, not characters, I'm sorry, that was offensive. Look at some of the main names in the Bible. Not all of them were saints, for certain.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, even Jesus flipped tables.
Yeah.
That's what Donald Trump's doing. He's flipping tables.
Oh,
because he has to. Let me tell you.
He's driving out the moneymakers or the globalists who are raking in the cash from the lobbyists and K Street and the Business Roundtable and the Koch brothers and draining the swamp. And that's what we wanted. That's why we elected him.
And we got a bunch of frauds on the other side running. They want reparations when, we're seven generations removed. They want to give illegals carte blanche to vote, to decide your future. They want to basically give blanket amnesty. They want to bring in terrorists into this country. They want to flood you with some diseases that we have not seen in decades. A very long time. Are you going to sit there and accept it, or are you going to go out and push for Trump? And when I say push for Trump, I mean get your family and friends to come with you to the voting polls and to vote for President Trump.
Yeah.
It's very important.
They're trying to eradicate the individualistic, free-thinking, capitalistic, hard-working, tax-paying patriot and replacing us with riffraff that they can control.
Absolutely. Well, listen up, everybody. We've got a fantastic guest coming up next. It's the one and only Julio Rivera from the Reactionary Times, and we're going to be talking about these illegals getting the driver's license again and getting his input on that. Don't you dare go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody, to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and stimulating talk. You're rocking with the best, me, Chet Martin, the Long Island Redneck, Brian Bro, and CV Burton. Make sure you go to FreedomOnDeck.com. Check out everything we have to offer for you there. We have some awesome people featured on that site, and one of them is on the line with me right now. Today we have a great friend and ally to the program. He's the owner of the Reactionary Times, a Newsmax insider, and a contributor to the Epoch Times, the Washington Times, The Hill, and many, many more. Mr. Julio Rivera, the Conservarican. How's it going, Julio?
It's going fantastic. It's been far too long since we've spoken.
I know we say that every time, don't we? But you're a busy guy, and we always appreciate you coming on with us. So I wanted to get into something that's going on in our backyard in New York. So we've got lawmakers along with Governor Cuomo, and they've okayed this green light bill, which gives illegal aliens the right to a driver's license. What do you make of this bill's passing, Julio?
I think it's further proof that the left is going further radically in that direction. It seems like the legislators in New York are more interested in, pandering to the illegal immigrants that are, quite frankly, using up and drying up resources instead of, the tax-paying citizens of New York. I mean, let's not forget, it was probably about 12, 13 years ago back when Eliot Spitzer, before he would leave office in disgrace after, Hookergate or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
He tried to do this, and the voters in the suburbs were like, no, they didn't want this. They knew it was a bad idea. They knew it was a bad idea then. So, 12 years later, not much has really changed other than the attitudes of these, further, left, moving extremists, that are in the Democrat Party now. That's the identity now, unfortunately, of the Democrat Party, which, a lot of the messaging within this party, which is coming directly from the national DNC, it's coming from the top. I mean, this is Tom Perez's vision for the Democrat Party moving forward. I mean, he wants the AOCs. He wants this type of policy. I don't see that this is going to work, in the middle of the country. I don't think it's ever going to get them the White House. I think that they're going to have to remake their party before they're really formidable to challenge Donald Trump. I mean, unless we get a little wishy-washy Republican after Donald Trump, but it's really bad. I mean, what it does is it sends a message to illegal immigrants who, I think that they know, they're well aware of this. And I think there's going to be a flood into New York State of illegals that are currently in other parts of the country.
Yeah, we already have our problems with the MS-13 street gang here on Long Island. Now, this is wild. I read this from the Daily Wire. I didn't know this, Julio. New York is the 13th state to allow illegals to obtain a driver's license. Were you aware that there were 12 other states that had done this?
Yes, actually, because I read it on Reactionary Times today.
Okay, a little promo, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So there's 12 other states. Who is that? California, I'm guessing.
California, I believe Wisconsin is one of them. There's actually several that are on the coastal states. I believe that they are generally the ones that are along the border, I believe, are the ones that currently have that in place.
And if you want that list, go to thereactionarytimes.com and you can find it right there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I don't have it committed to memory, but it's there.
All right. Julio, do you think this is simply a way for the Democrats to obtain more votes in 2020 and beyond?
Oh yeah, I mean, this is what they've been doing all along. They pander, to minorities, and they pander to everyone except for the people that actually pay them to do their job, which is the tax-paying American citizens. This is all about a push, I think, for 2020. You see right now that they're fighting the census question, which Donald Trump had the foresight to add the citizenship question to the census.
Yeah.
And it's true because we have to have fair representation, I think, of actual true American the actual American citizenry, and not go ahead and assign or gerrymander districts based on the presence of illegals there. I think that's kind of crazy. The one thing is I feel kind of bad at the end of the day for, taxpayers and conservatives to live in heavily deep blue states. Because what's going to wind up happening is, with the citizenship question there, this affects how federal funds are allocated for, basic services. So,
yeah, you're right.
if there's shortfalls in certain areas where they do have a large population of illegal immigrants, and they're going to feel it there, unfortunately. But again, this is what they've allowed, places like California, New York, and New Jersey to actually become. And it's really a disease. Liberalism, when you consider it, right? California has become, in a lot of ways, in a lot of areas, somewhat unlivable. You get people up and leaving California. Where are they going? They're going to Texas, where now supposedly
right.
Trump only has a 2-point lead over Joe Biden. If you believe the polling, which I take obviously with a grain of salt, polling is very skewed, and it's used as a manipulating tool, psychologically for voters. But, they just, they up and leave once they've destroyed an area, and then they go someplace else to do it again, so it's really a tough situation. But, the president, I think, with the messaging that he's had for the country, as far as trying to secure the border, putting the pressure on Mexico, all the good measures that he's doing right now are so that hopefully in the future, these issues like giving illegal immigrants, driver's licenses, isn't as big a problem, or we don't have to worry about it as much. I mean, he's also talked about deporting, millions of people starting, I believe, in a couple of days, correct?
Yes. So that was actually Monday night, and Trump tweeted out that he would be directing ICE to deport millions of illegals. Do you think that he can accomplish this feat? And secondly, won't these deportees have to go before a judge before being deported? I mean, isn't that part of the issue too?
I mean, that's how kind of the way it's gone right now. That's sort of what the protocols are. But I don't necessarily think that they deserve that courtesy. I mean, if you're in here and you're an illegal, I think that, you don't necessarily reserve the right to see a judge.
No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's smash and grab. I mean, I think that what we would need to do, if we really wanted to do it right, listen, this is how I would do it. I'd go back to the policies of Dwight Eisenhower in the 1950s. And I just, we take these people, we put them in buses, we drive them deep into Mexico and drop them off there. Where it's not convenient for them to come back immediately. And if the Mexican government has a problem with it, then, we already saw what Trump can accomplish with the threat of a tariff,
Yeah.
So it's time for us to, I think, to get a lot stronger on, these issues. If we really, and listen, Trump has been more than nice enough to these illegals that are here in the country and to the Democrats, because if you remember last year before DACA expired, he offered to grant legalization to 1.8 million
and they wouldn't take
residents here.
Yep.
And the Democrats didn't take that deal because at the end of the day, the Democrats couldn't give a you-know-what about brown people like me.
No, you're absolutely right. We have Julio Rivera, owner of the Reactionary Times. Make sure you go to reactionarytimes.com and check out what he has to offer there. Julio, I was listening to Dana Lash, who I think is absolutely fantastic, last week. And she was discussing the recycled children on the southern border. So there was a border agent that recognized a child that was brought in by an illegal alien, or a dreamer if I were a Democrat. And they looked through the files and profiles and found that the child had been brought through the border 7 months prior and was sent back to Mexico and used again by another illegal alien. Obviously, the child is being used by the coyotes in this recycling of the children scheme that they have going on. Isn't this child abuse, Julio?
Oh, it's most certainly child abuse. I think it's horrendous. I mean, I think those kids are going to grow up and either become gangbangers themselves or grow up with all types of psychological problems as a result of the way that they're being used. What's the easiest way to put an end to all that is, to build the wall. I mean,
right.
Once you have a deterrent there that's going to keep people from, it makes it to where coming to the United States is not a viable option for these people. Then it becomes an internal domestic issue within these countries. I mean, I believe that this it's two-pronged. We have to do what we need to do here domestically, putting up our border wall, our obstruction to these people to, kind of dissuade them from coming here. the flip side to it also is that internationally, there's things that need to occur. Is there a dangerous situation in Central America right now? Is there violence and there are things that people are running away from? Sure. But why does this all have to land in America's lap?
It always does.
It always does, right? So why just like America is nice enough to take, Syrian refugees and, split that, indemnify with the rest of the world and with the European countries that are so big on accepting these refugees. Where are these South American refugees, in terms of Germany? Where's Merkel right now? Why isn't she stepping up right now, since she wants us to take 65,000 undocumented, people that we can't vet, or we can't verify who they really are, from the Middle East? Why aren't they stepping up and taking people from Central America? That's
a good question. Julio, I was watching this interview that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez gave out, and she compared the holding facilities on our southern border to concentration camps.
Oh, God.
But, you never hear the Democrats demanding better for our veterans in the VA hospitals, or the hundreds of thousands of homeless spread throughout liberal cities in America. And it's important to point out that they are greatly liberal cities. This should be a big talking point on Trump's 2020 campaign, shouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, most certainly. And I think it's really disrespectful. I mean, I actually just shared an article that was written, it's a column in the UK Daily Mail, written by Piers Morgan, of all people, a left-leaning member of the media. And he attacked AOC for making those comparisons and for saying that, comparing basically Trump to Hitler, which is absolutely ridiculous.
I actually like Piers Morgan. I don't mind him. He's all right.
Yeah, I mean, not if you're a gun guy or if
right.
you're...
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I don't like that, but... He can sometimes say something decent. That's all I'm...
Of course, yeah. I mean, he has a different kind of existing relationship with Trump. He was on The Celebrity Apprentice before.
Right.
He stepped up to the plate to defend Trump against, Omarosa, who's kind of Omarosa, or however you say it, who's kind of basically disappeared at this point. And he played a good role, I think, in defending the president against her. But at the end of the day, even he is ashamed and running away from, I think, the radical left in America. And this is, I guess, a product of, post-Obama, the new guard in the DNC, the same DNC where basically, Simone Sanders says that we don't want another white DNC chair. This is a very radicalized and I think racist party. It really is a racist Democrat party. And I think that they're going to pull out all stops. Donald Trump, the fact, I think that the thing that they hate the most about him isn't even necessarily his policy. Sometimes I think they just hate him because he's a rich white guy.
Yeah, it's probably true. Well, Julio, we've only got a minute to go, so tell everybody where they can go and check you out, please.
Well, definitely, and we'll say it for the 100th time today on the interview, reactionarytimes.com. You can actually catch, my writing. We have some great contributors to Reactionary Times. We post Freedom on Deck as well, who we absolutely love. We love the support that we get from you guys, and I always love coming on to the show. And you can read my columns at all the places you mentioned: Epoch Times, Western Journal, Newsmax, Washington Times, Washington Examiner, American Thinker, Town Hall, and many others.
Thank you, Julio Rivera. Listen, everybody, make sure you go and check out thereactionarytimes.com. It's worth your while, and it's a mountain of information. Don't be skewed by the leftist propaganda. Get your news from somewhere that it's worthwhile, okay? That was Julio Rivera. Come back to Freedom on Deck. We have much more for you in the next hour. Don't go anywhere.
Rock it right. No need to talk. I know what you want and what you like. 'Cause I do too. Yeah, I love how you leave on the lights.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back to FOD Overdrive, Freedom on Deck, all in one shot. We love having Julio on. It's been a while since we've had him on, and that was a fantastic interview. I hope you all enjoyed it. Well, we're going to be getting into the slavery reparations. I know everybody's been talking about it. Let me explain it a little bit, CV. In my perspective, this is what we have going on here. We're 7 generations removed from the last time we had surviving slaves in America. You know, it's a wild concept to me that now all of a sudden we're going to do these extensive background checks on people to find out who are the descendants of slaves in America, when you would have to go back to 1865 or 1920 to find any of these descendants. And certainly we can, believe me. We have these, you know, those crazy family tree websites where you can find that if you're a descendant of a slave.
Yeah.
But we get into the weeds here. You know, why shouldn't the descendants of the Spaniards that enslaved blacks give reparations? Why shouldn't Jewish ancestors in America receive reparations from the people of Germany? It's, you know, when you go down this rabbit hole of reparations, it can't just be for one sect of people, can it?
No. And, you know, buried under the sediments of time, back in ancient Egypt, the 12 tribes of Israel, 13 if you count Ephraim and Manasseh, were slaves to the Egyptians. And that's like white people being enslaved by black people. And, you know, some would argue that, let's not, you know, we don't have to get into the weeds. But, I mean, the formation of the United States was instrumental in ending slavery, not starting it. Slavery was already an institution before we became the United States of America. It was an English institution. It wasn't even, you can't even say that it was the Irish or the Italians or the Germans were involved. It was English. And this is a crazy idea. It'll never work. And you shouldn't force people to pay reparations who had nothing whatsoever to do with it, and neither have their ancestors. Except Ben Affleck.
You know, it's a good point. I was watching them on Capitol Hill discussing and having a great vigor and debate with writer Ta-Nehisi Coates, actor Danny Glover, and douchebag Cory Booker,
Yeah.
and Coleman Hughes, who's a black writer, by the way, who's against reparation. And when he gave his little speech, they booed him.
Yeah.
They booed him.
Good.
They booed him for being against reparations.
They booed him for being against reparations.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Of course, it was packed with Democrats.
Right.
They weren't cheering him, believe me. They were against him because he actually stood up there and he said, listen, we got to move past our history or we're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
And they didn't like that. And it is true. This is all causing division in the country.
100%.
That's exactly what it's intended to do, and that's what the Democrats intend to do with these reparations discussions. It's not going to work anyway.
Yeah.
You can't honestly tell me that we can give reparations to those that have never been affected by slavery or bigotry. And by the way, how do you expect to ever move forward? You're talking about the divisiveness that Trump creates in America, which is a false narrative. But you're going to create divisiveness right up there on Capitol Hill. It's ridiculous, CV.
And this is what we were saying before on an earlier segment, where the Democrats cannot win on the real issues. All they could do is, identity politics. Pit this group against that group, and that way they can garner a solid block of votes from this demographic and that demographic, and that's the only way they think they can win. Well, there's a lot of ways they think they can win. The driver's license to illegals, that's another one. But, dividing us is definitely part of their arsenal in winning this election. Yes.
It's paramount. Mm-hmm. And Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, the only African-American Republican senator, told CNN on Wednesday that he agrees with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell that reparations are not realistic and not a path forward because it's just too complicated to figure out who to compensate. And that's exactly the point. Listen, here's the issue, okay? I wouldn't have problems doing reparations if we had been doing them back in 1865. But you know what the reparations were? The reparations were all those men's lives on the battlefield that fought to free the slaves. The reparations were the creation of the welfare state. The reparations were all the freebies. I'm sorry. You know, we've done enough reparations already for everyone. You know what's not a reparation? When you've got the illegals coming through and taking over your districts and your towns and kicking you out.
Yeah. I want reparations for that. For the legal American citizens. But the thing is, you know, you cannot tax everybody extra to funnel the money to people that you think have been hurt by slavery from, like you said, 7 generations ago. And by the way, this has been tried before on a limited scope. There was a program that was giving government money, our taxpayer money, to people who have had farms, people of color whose ancestors or their fathers had farms and had been removed from their farms or something strange like that. Do you remember that? It was a couple of years back, and there were a lot of people who were faking it, who were faking that they were injured by losing their farms or something, and it was only for the black community.
Well, I think that, you know, senators like Cory Booker are going to use this to try to amp up the black community to be more angry towards the Trump supporter or the white man or the white American in order to only further the narrative of division.
Yeah.
And they know that it's not going to move forward. I mean, if we start paying reparations out, like you said, people can fake it till they make it.
Yeah.
And if you start doing that, then the corruption could get out of hand.
Yep.
I mean, let me ask you this. How many black senators and congressmen and women do you think are going to try to get some reparations? Because you know they like free money. You know, and you know they're corrupt. You will see that happen if this goes through. I'm telling you.
And like Candace Owens said, these fake, phony, fraud politicians think that the black community are all stupid. Well, they're only going to fool the same number of them, but there are definitely a growing number of African American patriots, and they're all going for Trump. So you're not going to fool everybody. Sorry.
It's going to be bigger this year. You know, there are a lot of blacks behind Trump, a lot of Hispanics. There are gays for Trump. And there are straight white men like us for Trump. So, you know what? You liberals lost us a long time ago. You Democrats lost us a long time ago. And you are losing the black vote. And I 100% am proud to say that black conservatives are just as valuable as we are. Listen, we're going to come back with Josh and Nicole Landers from the Parent to Parent Network, and we're going to be talking about drag queen story time. Disgusting. Come back to Freedom on Deck. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk, WJJF. You're rocking with the best in Connecticut, Long Island, and Rhode Island. Make sure you go to freedomondeck.com. Check out everything we have to offer for you there, including FOD Overdrive. All the contributors are there, including myself, Lee Elsie, Julio Rivera, and Alex Newman from The New American. We have two of our all-time favorite guests on the line with us, and it's been far too long since they've been on. Josh and Nicole Landers from the Parent to Parent Network. Josh, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you, Chet?
I'm great. Nicole, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks so much. We're glad to be back.
We're glad to have you back. You know, usually when you guys come on, we stick to the subject matter of bullying or problems in our public school systems. but we're tackling a very disturbing topic that has picked up some national attention and outrage. It's called Drag Queen Storytime. This past week, it came through Middletown, Connecticut, and Port Jefferson, New York, which is here on Long Island, which was met with protesters. These events feature a drag queen reading stories to 4 through 8-year-olds and come to schools, libraries, and bookstores. Nicole, as a mother, what do you make of this Drag Queen Story Hour?
I am mortified, Chet, truly mortified and very troubled for our country and our country's children.
Well, what troubles you most about it? I mean, is it mostly because it's being promoted in a way to glorify it?
It's promotion in a way that glorifies it, yes, but certainly as a Christian, I believe in the importance of loving all people, but normalizing or naturalizing this kind of thing is very troubling and confusing to the children. We don't talk about our sexual practices as a habit with our children, and this is definitely content that should be excluded from any kind of connection to education or our school systems or our libraries in any form.
Josh, there have already been 2 convicted pedophiles featured as readers in the Drag Queen Storytime. One in Houston by the stage name of Tatiana Mila, and the other goes by the stage name of Liza Lott. Josh, why are they still in business after these revelations?
Your guess is as good as mine. Having hired a registered sex offender and not going through proper processes to ensure children are safe should be an immediate end to anything that they are doing whatsoever in this particular light. Everything that Nicole said is true, but it takes away our ability in a nuclear family to be able to make and have discussions with our children at appropriate ages about their sexuality, about a man and a woman, and having a registered sex offender that's actually talking and reading stories to our children dressed in drag just amplifies that this is horrifically wrong and should be immediately stopped in every place in the country that it is occurring.
Nicole, last week in Middletown, Connecticut, a friend of mine actually went to the Drag Queen Storytime event at Julia Bookstore and took photos. He wasn't there to glorify it. He wanted to take photos to see what was going on. And this drag queen named, this is the name of this individual that spoke to the 4-year-olds in Connecticut, by the way, Mila Easy Lay. That's the name. That's the stage name. And he was wearing a skin-tight green tube top with his altered fake breasts popping out. And he actually told me that the parents that brought their children there brought them in droves to see this abomination. Why do you think parents are so open to this? Basically in these liberal counties.
First of all, I'm literally sick. The name. Oh my gracious. I think parents are brainwashed and blind, demoralized, and Chet, this stuff is pushed as science, and it couldn't be further from the truth that this is a scientific fact that gender is fluid. I just think parents are entirely brainwashed and asleep in our country.
Josh, you and Nicole, before we started doing this segment, were telling me a little bit about this California curriculum with sex ed and that it's spreading throughout the country. Tell our listeners a little bit about this.
So what we understand is in California, there is a new K through 12 program that has been approved for sex education for all public education students. And this is not something that students or parents can opt out of. It is going to become a requirement. It is being pushed by the National Education Association, which is basically the National Teachers Union. This is teaching children in kindergarten about transgenderism. This is teaching 4th and 5th graders about masturbation. This is teaching middle school and high school students about alternative practices to avoid pregnancy, like oral sex and sodomy. And what we are being told is that this is a precursor. The NEA is going to continue to push this down to individual states where they know they can push it. And within the next year or two, this will become very prevalent within the United States. It goes right along with what's becoming acceptable, and people that are afraid of being called racist or misogynist or sexist or whatever it is, that are just allowing it to occur.
Well, that's what they do, Nicole, right? They bully you into submission and allowing your children to be brainwashed.
Absolutely, Chet. In fact, I recently had a debate with a woman in a Facebook group who accused me of being a hater for identifying that gender is not fluid, and there's over 1,600 genetic markers that distinguish males from females that can't spontaneously change just because a person thinks it. I was labeled a hater and bullied around in my own group for making such a statement. It's just preposterous. And, you know, as parents continue to succumb to this and place their children into these courses of education, their minds will be increasingly confused and talk about increased problems in our schools. We just can't even wrap our mind around what's going to come of this if parents don't rise up and get it stopped.
It's wild, Josh. You know, I was watching, I don't know if you guys know Steven Crowder, Louder with Crowder. And he was I believe he was at Yale. And he was speaking to a crowd, and somebody got very obnoxious with the debate over gender fluidity. And this young man that was speaking to Steven said that there were over 700 genders. I'm sorry, I can't help but laugh. There are over 700 genders. And, you know, and Steven's response was, he just puts up the peace sign. He's like, 2. There's only 2. And it's like, you know, and they lose it. They can't accept it. Who is teaching our children that there are 700 genders? And how are our children being so manipulated? How can they believe such a wild concept, Josh?
So if you think that, you know, when we were in school many, many, many years ago, we trusted our teachers and the principal and the vice principal of the school, correct? So we were told that when we were not around our parents, they were in charge, and we were to trust them, and we were to listen to them, correct?
Yes.
Well, our generation is now parents, and we are telling our children the same thing. So they go to school, and we are telling them to listen to their educators. Well, the educators are teaching them through indoctrination to have very narrow thoughts, and if you do not think like them, then you are a racist, a misogynist, a sexist, whatever ist you want to put on the end of it. So by the time they get to colleges and universities and rack up $250,000 in debt that they want us to pay for, or the federal government to pay for, they have become brainwashed. I don't know another way to say it. And they've had 12 years of conditioning that if parents and family members are not paying attention to, you are not going to be able to turn them around easily. You are not going to be able to convince them of the truth. So they go to a liberal university, which there are literally thousands of them in the United States, and they are even further indoctrinated. We can see things like the Overland College, against the bakery issue in Ohio, where the Overland College is now forced to pay $11 million because they encouraged, supported, and oversaw students that were protesting for false allegations of racism.
Yeah.
It's all starting. It starts in kindergarten and first grade and second grade and third grade, and it just gets more extensive all the way through 12th grade. And if parents are not paying attention, if they are lax, this is what happens. And we now have an entire generation of Gen X and Gen Y kids that are for lack of a better term, brainwashed. They are not capable of forming a thought on their own. They are told to believe this. They do. Somebody tells them there are 700 genders, which is preposterous to my personal opinion, and they blindly believe it. Because if they don't, they're cast out of the group. They're not allowed to be part of the gang. And this is what society is coming to.
Well, Nicole, I want to ask you this, and we have Josh and Nicole Landers from the Parent to Parent Network. Is there any way we can push President Trump and his administration to cut this curriculum out of our public schools?
Chet, I don't know. That's an excellent question. I think that with enough public outcry, many things can be accomplished, but it's a matter of the age-old problem of getting people active and vocal. A march on Washington to let our president know that we as parents and citizens and taxpayers are not going to stand for this being taught to the children. I think it would brandish sufficient attention to get action. But will enough show up in D.C. to do something? I don't know.
And it seems like there's not much voice on this issue, Josh. I mean, I was telling you before that most of the shows on this station are conservative, and none of them are talking about it except for our show and actually Lori on Liberty. And we're the only two shows that have brought this topic up.
It is disheartening that there are lots of places in the country that are just looking at the issues that affect them directly, and they are not looking at public education. Nicole and I used to believe that we could make a push to alter and to shift the direction of the Department of Education, and we have since changed our perspective to where we feel like the Department of Education should be abolished. We feel like the federal government oversight in education, starting in 1979, when it was put in place by Jimmy Carter, has been the downfall of public education. It has started to push their agendas. It is outside of what we want as parents for our children. As you know, we've pulled our children out of public school, and we've seen a massive altered, huge change in a positive direction for them. But we are one of, we have two children out of almost 51 million kids in public education. If the states had the ability to be in charge of their own educational process, you're now going to have a much easier time to make alterations to policy, to make an uprising or an uproar about a particular issue and keep it focused on the core values that we used to have about education. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. Tell everybody where they can go check you out on the Facebook page.
So you can go to Parents Against School Violence at Parent to Parent Network. We are still very active. We still talk to parents and families all the time to offer them resources, suggestions, helpful tips about kids that are being bullied or physical violence that's being brought to them. But we are active outside of that as well. So feel free if you want to reach out to us. Nicole and I are both on that Facebook page.
All right, everybody, go check out Josh and Nicole. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you for being a voice about this issue. How a nation treats and cares for its children will directly determine the direction that nation will go.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your voice.
Thank you, guys. Come back to Freedom on Deck. We have much more on the way. You don't want to go anywhere. 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. You're here climbing the mountain with us, Chet Martin and CV Burton. Insert foot and mouth, I guess you could say. There's outrage from a pro-Israel and Jewish group growing at U.S. Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I'm sure everybody's heard about this, for her remarks on Monday on her Instagram account that the United States is running concentration camps on our southern border in reference to the Trump administration's policies regarding illegal immigration. Rabbi Abraham Cooper said that AOC should ask Holocaust survivors and ex-GIs who liberated Daku what the Charnel House was like. He said that she is insulting the victims of genocide. CV, this woman is totally deranged.
Yeah, besides which, this policy started, I think, even before the Obama administration. And, in 2014, Obama was putting an overage of illegal aliens where they couldn't find housing for them and putting them into that facility. So, to blame this on Donald Trump and then comparing him to Hitler, once again, they're hitting below the belt and they're ginning up hatred for him and his supporters to a level which is, I think, dangerous for this country.
And, not only did she compare these border holding facilities to concentration camps, but she's basically comparing ICE and Border Patrol agents as the Third Reich, Trump to Hitler, and we, the Trump supporters, to the Germans that said and did nothing, CV. I mean, this is an absolute abomination, what she said, and she needs to apologize.
I know. And this is exactly what the Nazis did. They dehumanized the Jews. They said they were less than human. And that's their whole goal with Donald Trump and his supporters, to say that Donald Trump is less than human. Don't legitimize Donald Trump, they say. Don't legitimize his supporters. And it's creating a very violent climate. How many of us have been attacked, for wearing a MAGA hat or pushed out of restaurants and treated disparagingly by a whole host of institutions and situations? It's insane what they're doing.
It is insane, and you make a good point about the attacks on people that support the president, on how much worse it can get. And, I think representatives like Alexandria Cortez know what they're doing and know what they're saying, and they actually believe that we should be treated as subhuman, as Nazis, as racist, as KKK members, or something devoid of any type of human emotion, when it's anything but the truth. We are the patriots. We are the ones that are looking out for those that are being bullied. We are the ones that are trying to make a better life here in America for those that are striving for one. Listen, come back to Freedom on Deck, because we got another fantastic topic for you. Trump is saying millions of illegals will be deported. Let's discuss it here on FOD.
This truck needs a half tank. These wheels need a 2-lane. This radio needs 3 songs to play to get me across town to you.
Oh yeah, welcome back to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Thank you so much for being here with us. We always appreciate our listeners spending some time on their Sundays. I'll tell you this, CV. I was glad to see President Trump tweet on Monday that the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency would begin removing the millions of illegal aliens who have illicitly found their way into the United States. And you can be upset at me for saying that. I don't really mind that. You might as well just open the border and let everyone in who wants to enter if deportation orders handed down by judge and jury are ignored. Not only by those ordered deported, but by our law enforcement agencies. I think that this situation on the border is going to look a lot better after President Trump actually starts enforcing deportation, CV.
I know. We should have been deporting or enforcing deportation many decades ago. I mean, we have laws. Why do we not enforce them? That's the funny thing about the left and Obama is that they when they wanted to enforce laws that like new laws that they created, just to beat us over the head with, they'd be like, it's the law of the land, it's the law of the land. But anytime they wanted to ignore laws that they benefit from, they used discretionary enforcement, quote unquote. And I like how Trump said, we're going to deport as many as are coming in. So there's a little bit of a balance, And then we have and then we have some of our friends on the right, who say he's trying to throw red meat to his base. And I'm not naming names, but you know who we're talking about.
Well, what we,
but he always believed in that, though.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing that the left always tries to point out is to the moment where Donald Trump spoke to the world and he said, some of them that are coming in are rapists. Some of them are murderers, and some of them are good people.
Yeah, they leave that part out.
Yeah, and he never said that all of them are rapists, all of them are murderers,
no.
and none of them are good people. He never said that. But the left, of course, tries to enforce the idea that Donald Trump is some sort of huge, foaming at the mouth bigot that wants to keep anyone out of the country that doesn't look like him, which is absolutely false.
Yeah.
Can you people honestly tell me that somebody that has built an enterprise like Donald Trump has built has never hired people that don't look like him, has never conducted business with people that do not look like him? That's a farce. That's a joke. And anybody that even believes that should be ashamed of themselves, CV.
Yeah. They don't want to enforce laws that are designed to protect us from being run over by drunken drivers and murdered, raped, and whatever, or who live off our system through welfare and other benefits that we have to pay for. But they take Manafort and they put him they send him to Rikers Island for tax evasion because he helped Trump win.
Meanwhile, we have children on Long Island being decapitated in the woods of Brentwood. Mm-hmm. Actually, there was another violent crime from the MS-13 2 weeks ago over in Brentwood, Long Island. It continues. It continues to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And the amazing thing is the liberals get upset when Donald Trump actually wants to start emboldening our police, our law enforcement officers, to do something that Barack Obama never allowed them to do.
Yeah.
Which is enforce the law.
Exactly.
Bottom line. Instead, Obama wanted to paint our law enforcement officers, our ICE agents, and our Border Patrol as just what AOC called them, Nazis.
Mm-hmm. This is exactly why we need a strong border wall to enforce our border security and national security, to keep the insane, evil riffraff the heck out of our country. You have the cartels who are making a mint off of this open border policy, making a mint, and they're going around decapitating politicians and decapitating police chiefs and so forth. I mean, they've decapitated more heads than ISIS in some cases. And then, and then I'm seeing on Twitter people posting videos of certain Islamic nations where they're hoisting women up, their hands are tied up, they're hoisting them up in a tree over a branch and beating them to death with baseball bats, or burying them up to their necks and throwing rocks at their faces. This is why we need strong border security. This is why we need to make America safe again.
CV, where's the women's rights march on that? Aren't they pounding the drum that we need to stop these nations from stoning their women to death? No, they don't do that.
They're nowhere.
They're nowhere. You know, here's the thing. President Trump has spurred on a movement that I'm really proud of. And last week we had Jennifer Lawrence on from We Build the Wall. And, you know, it was started by Brian Kolfage, who was a disabled veteran. He had lost three limbs during his service.
Oh, yeah.
And he just decided to start the GoFundMe page.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turned into a real, I think you call it a 501(c). I'm not sure exactly, but he started We Build the Wall. And now it's funded in a way that you can give money and it enables them to build more. They were able to raise enough money to build a half-mile border wall on the southern border. Mm-hmm. This was done grassroots, CV.
I think it was I think it was even longer than that. I think it was more like almost a mile or a couple miles. But
I interviewed her last week. It was a half a mile.
You're right.
But
that's a little sketchy. But they raised like $8 million, and the wall is like the toppest quality.
Oh yeah,
and you get government to do, you know, to try to build a half a mile wall. It would cost them like $1 billion or something.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
So they've given this blueprint, and they also, what she told me actually off air, was they have another $32 million that they're going to be expanding on.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, wouldn't it be great if we had more causes like We Build the Wall out there, and it could be like a grassroots wall that's erected in the United States, and we could do that.
Right.
So people, don't be disparaged because the government tries to shut you down. You can actually accomplish things despite the fact that these evil Democrats do not want your family and your land to be safe. You can do it grassroots.
Right.
I think it's an important thing to keep in mind.
Yep.
And the other part of this discussion is that we are finding hijabs, burqas, prayer rugs, Qurans on the southern border.
Yeah.
Now, who do CV, are those you think the Mexicans are bringing in them Qurans?
You know what? It's just another avenue for terrorism to take. But, you know, if Trump really goes through with this and rounds up a lot of illegals and ships them out, you know, the left are going to call him a tyrant, a Hitler, this and that, and just more division and more hate. So we'll see.
We know they're going to do that anyway, despite the fact of whether he does it or not.
Right.
So you might as well get your bang for your buck.
Yeah. I would love to see it. I mean, like I said, they should have enforced this many, many, many decades ago.
And listen, the thing you do is you listen to the cases from asylum seekers that really need asylum.
Right.
But a vast good amount of these people that are coming in, you can't tell me people that are coming in with iPhones and wearing Prada need asylum. Come on. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they're being well funded. We know that.
I know. The asylum thing is a total farce. I mean, even when they were taking in Syrians as refugees, they weren't even the Christians that were at the most danger. They were like men of military age being brought in here. They were basically ISIS, in my opinion.
Oh, and we're going to be talking about that next.
Yep.
Because the Obama-era Syrian refugees are members of ISIS. A lot of them. And that's going to be a discussion during the next topic. I mean, you know, that man screwed this country up. I don't know that we'll ever recover. I don't even know that Trump can get us there, but hopefully he can. But listen, come back next. We're going to be talking about what I was just talking about. The Syrian refugee brought in 2016 in Pittsburgh, planning an attack on a Christian church. Don't you dare go anywhere.
Outside of this one church town, there's a gold dirt road to a whole lot of nothing. Got a deed to the land, but it ain't my ground. This is
God's country. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck. 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Might be hearing us on FOD Overdrive. Anywhere you're hearing us, and thank you for being there. Listen, Mustafa Musab Al-Huamar, 21, a resident of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, was arrested last week based on a federal complaint charging him with one count of attempting to provide material support and resources to the Islamic State of Iraq, ISIS, a designated foreign terrorist organization, and 2 counts of distributing information relating to an explosive, destructive device or weapon of mass destruction in retaliation to his plan to attack a church in Pittsburgh. The announcement was made by Assistant Attorney General for National Security John C. Demers, United States Attorney Scott W. Brady for the Western District of PA, Assistant Director Michael McGarity of the FBI's Counterterrorism Division, and Special Agent in charge Robert Jones of the FBI's Pittsburgh Division. CV, here we go. You know, this was one of the wonderful dreamers brought into the country from the Middle East in 2016 that Barack Obama so emboldened us with. This is a fantastic development, isn't it?
Yeah. And if he would have been successful, this would have been more blood on Barack Obama's hands. And the whole refugee policy is such a fake, phony farce, where it's a back channel to bring in what I think are equivalent to illegal aliens. And this is why we need Trump's extreme vetting. We only want people in this country. We want people to come in. We don't care.
Yes.
We don't care what color or creed they are. We just want them to love our country, to respect our laws, to love our Constitution, and to be hardworking people of quality who have a skill set, who can provide for their own family, who are not just here to leech off of us and murder us. Is that too much to ask? We don't want people in here that want to kill us? Please.
It's insane, and the insanity from the left is if you dare challenge anyone's beliefs that are coming into this country as far as, like religious beliefs and what they could possibly have in their heart, that you are somehow some radical extremist of a nationalistic type point of view, when all we're saying is, please take a look at where they're coming from.
Yeah.
This guy is 21 now, so that means in 2016 he was a teenager.
Yeah.
So that obviously tells you at a young age he had hate in his heart for this country and for Christians. He was planning an attack on a Christian church.
Yep.
Now, if the attack had gone through, would the media have treated it with the same type of outrage that they did with the New Zealand shooter, CV?
Yeah. And for those people who think that we're saying, oh, Muslims are terrorists,
No.
Grow up. Grow up. We're not saying that. We're just saying there's a large percentage of them who actually think that terrorist acts are justified.
All right. We've had guests like Shaza Mohammed on this program before. All right? Now, Shaza Mohammed grew up in a area of Iraq that was war-torn. She was abused by her husband. She had mothered 6 children under a man that saw her as nothing more than a piece of meat.
Oh, yeah.
She is a woman that supports President Donald J. Trump.
Are you talking about Yaz?
No, I'm not talking about Yaz. I'm talking about Shaza.
Right. Yaz is another one, though.
She's not a Muslim. She converted to Christianity.
Yes, I know. I'm saying, but she was raised by a father who beat her to a bloody pulp.
Yes,
because she was a Muslim. She didn't toe the Muslim line, and the state took her out of there to save her life.
Well, so the point is that we've had guests on the show that have grown up in the Islamic culture. One of them is still a Muslim. Mm-hmm. So we don't hate Muslims. That is not what this show is about. We don't hate anyone on this program. We will give anyone a platform that wants to come on and talk about any type of issue. Yeah. Whether you support our show, whether you support our president, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican. We've had congressmen that are Democrats that have written great books about Robert Mueller. We've had Republicans on the show, probably more often than not. We've had Muslims, Christians, Jews. That's what That's what America is all about, and that's what Donald Trump's America is all about. CV.
Yeah.
It's about the opportunity for us all to come together for one great goal, and that's to make America great again.
And I love how the officials said in the wake of this that we don't support anybody who would target people based on their religious beliefs, like the shooting in that temple, and they named that temple where it was shot up because they were Jewish, and they're just trying to like equivocate, and I hate when people equivocate. Just let's call a spade a spade. This is an Islamic terrorist brought into this country by an anti-Christian and an anti-Semite, and I'll say it. I'm not afraid to say it. And another thing is, not to oversimplify, but we are in a battle here between good and evil, between right and wrong, and between God and the devil, basically. And I just hope that our audience chooses to stand with America and justice.
Well, I think that our audience chooses to stand with American justice, and my question is, what side will the rest of the non-listeners and the non-believers choose to side with?
Unfortunately, a lot of them are brainwashed by the propaganda.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to say if you don't listen to this program, you're brainwashed. That's not what I mean. But what I'm saying is, if you're flipping through and you hear us praising the president, I hope you don't say to yourself, "Wow, these guys are Nazis," because if you say that immediately, that I can't really sympathize with your type of point of view.
Yeah,
because you're not really giving anyone a chance at that point. You know what I mean?
There's nothing racist about wanting less taxes, a strong national security for the sake of your children and your progeny going forward. Many generations into the future, you want them to grow up in a country where you grew up feeling safe. You want them to feel unsafe. You want them to grow up in a country where you don't know if they're going to go to school and not come home. I mean, please grow up. Be reasonable about this. This is not about racism. This is about law and order. There's nothing wrong about loving your country. There's absolutely nothing racist about it because we are a melting pot. We have all nationalities in this country that are great people. But you got to love what we stand for, the American way, our Constitution, and support our laws.
And don't let Don Lemonade tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
Don't let these Democrats on Capitol Hill tell you that, you're a bad person because at one time there was slavery in this country.
Yeah.
Don't stand for it.
Sorry, I'm not like Ben Affleck. I'm Irish and Italian and German. none of those nationalities held slaves.
Yeah, wasn't that the truth? They found out that Ben Affleck, his family actually held slaves, right?
Yeah.
I say, hey, with Ben Affleck's yearly grossing salary from the movies that he makes, he should pay all the reparations.
Yeah, and Chelsea Handling, what's her name? Chelsea Handler?
Handling.
Yeah,
Handling.
Her great-grandfather, I think, I don't know if it was her grandfather or great-grandfather, but one of them was actually a Nazi soldier. Okay.
Really?
You want to talk about reparations? Let her pay reparations.
She should pay us reparations. We got Hebrew. We're Hebrews.
I want her to pay me
pay
reparations because I accidentally watched her show for 10 minutes.
It's a rough show, right?
I
mean, an unfunny liberal woman.
Yeah. She had more character when she had the space between her teeth, and then she filled it, and now she lost all her character. So now she's just a dingbat.
That's all.
That's
Oh, God. Well.
So what do we have next week coming up?
Oh, hold on. I don't even know. I don't know who our guests are next week.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Listen, all I can tell you is you got to come back. We've got another great show for you. That's all that I can tell you. So
you never know what's going to happen on Freedom on Deck. Every week we're spontaneous. You never know what's going to come out of our mouths.
That's true. All right. So listen, anyway, you want to come back next week? I'm sure you do. We want to have you here. We love having you here. Chet Martin, CV Burton, Brian Bro, who's not here, but he's here in spirit.
Yep.
Come back here next week, and we will have another blast with you on your Sundays. This is FOD.
Keep America great.
Oh, hell to the yeah. Good day.